Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you our first game of the week. A game that 12 weeks ago, when the season began, I really didn't plan on talking that much about. But here we are. Number 9, Indiana. Number 3, Ohio State. The winner? More than likely winning the Big Ten East. How crazy is that? How awesome is that? We came into this season knowing that Ohio State was the heavy favorite to win the East, knowing that Ohio State was the heavy favorite to win the entire Big Ten. But we thought that teams like Penn State, maybe Michigan, would contend in the Big Ten East, would contest Ohio State for that top spot. Not Indiana. We knew the Hoosiers were going to be all right, but not this good. So we're going to be here today breaking down this exciting and unprecedented top 10 matchup between the Hoosiers and the Buckeyes. We're going to break down the offense. We're going to break down the defense. We're going to break down the keys to the game and who we have winning this game and really who we basically have winning the Big Ten East when it's all said and done. So let's go ahead and take a look at the, history and some interesting facts before we really break down the personnel. The first thing you want to talk about here is Indiana. They're the 9th ranked team in the country, all right? The Hoosiers and the Buckeyes have two similar opponents. They've each defeated Penn State, and they've each defeated Rutgers. Ohio State's other win was Nebraska. Indiana's other two wins were against the Michigan teams, the Wolverines and the Spartans. So 4-0 Indiana, 3-0 Ohio State, two common opponents there. But despite this being a top 10 matchup, despite Indiana playing so well all season long, say what you want about their schedule, they've been playing very well, the FPI is only giving them a 10% chance to win. They're giving a top 10 team a 10% chance to win, and Vegas doesn't like them either, as Indiana's a 20.5 point underdog going into this game in Columbus. Nearly 3 touchdown underdog going into this game, guys, and that spread, of course, brought to you again by BetNow.eu. Check out that link down in the description below for that 100% sign-up bonus, that $1,000 cash sign-up bonus. It's where we go to place all of our bets. It's the best betting site out there. I will stand by that. So go check them out down in that description below. But BetNow has them at a 20.5 point underdog, just like many other books out there do as well. But that's really hard to believe. That's really, really hard to believe. Again, we knew Ohio State would be favored, but by nearly 3 touchdowns? I don't know about that. I guess they're taking history into account. The last 4 games between Ohio State and Indiana have been decided by at least 21 points. The Buckeyes have dominated the Hoosiers for years now. Nearly, 3-4 decades? Indiana has not defeated Ohio State since 1988. 1988. It's been 32 years since the last time Indiana took down the Buckeyes. And they're certainly hoping to snap that streak on Saturday, just like they've been snapping streaks left and right in this wild 2020 season. So it's an interesting matchup here, guys. No one's given Indiana that much of a chance. I know some of you guys down in the comments have been, but not many people outside of you guys are. So let's break down why Indiana has a chance to win, or maybe why Ohio State is going to blow them out of the water, just like a lot of other experts predict out there. So let's start on the offense. We're going to start with Indiana, always giving preference to that road team here. So the 9th ranked Hoosiers, they're coming in here averaging 33.8 points per game, which is a pretty good offensive mark. You know, we came into this season saying that Indiana, they had a very good chance for this to be their best team in program history. And this game against Ohio State may be the biggest game in program history, or at least one of them. They're averaging nearly 34 points per game, and they're led by Michael Penix. And that's really who you need to know for this Indiana offense. Their quarterback in Michael Penix already has 1,070 yards this year, 9 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. And on occasion, he can make some plays with his feet. I believe he has 2 rushing touchdowns this year. Not many rushing yards, but we're taking those sack numbers into consideration. So you factor all those things in together. Michael Penix is a dangerous guy. Dual threat, not as much as other quarterbacks, but if he's forced to, he can make the play. Just ask Penn State. They know all about that. But you look at this game, guys. The problem is Michael Penix is so great, but he's probably going to have to do it all by himself. Indiana does not have a run game. The Hoosiers are averaging just 95.3 rushing yards per game. Their star running back, Stevie Scott, he's failed to eclipse 100 rushing yards in a single game this year. Keep in mind, they've played 4 games so far, and he's yet to hit that century mark. So 95.3 rushing yards per game, and you're going up against an Ohio State defense that we'll talk about in a second that is probably going to be very stiff against the run. So there's a good chance Indiana can't hit that century mark again. So it's going to be the Michael Penix show. He's going to have to do everything, which means his receivers, like FRYFOGLE, who has 424 yards and 4 touchdowns this year. 200 of those yards and 2 touchdowns coming last week against Michigan State. But a guy like FRYFOGLE, a guy like Whop Phillier, the leading receiver from last year, and their tight end, Peyton Hendershot, all those guys, they're going to have to step up big. They're going to have to make the plays when they need to. Third down conversions, on the deep balls, drawing some flags. Don't drop the balls. I mean, good Lord. You've got to make the plays if you're these Indiana pass catchers, because if you can't do that, the Indiana offense is done. I don't expect them to be able to run the ball that much in this one. Ohio State, offensively for them, we know all about them. We know all about the Buckeyes and who they're led by. Justin Fields. Arguably, well, really, he is one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I would probably rank it Trevor Lawrence up there at 1, maybe Justin Fields at number 2. Factor in Mac Jones from Alabama, Kyle Trask from Florida, but those are two to me are the top 2 quarterbacks in the country right now. And you look at Justin Fields, he's putting up ridiculous numbers this year. I get it's just been 3 games. I get that. But so far, through those 3 games, he has more total touchdowns than incompletions. Let that sink in for a second. More total touchdowns than incompletions. Fields has 11 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, so 13 total. He has 11 total incompletions this year. That's unreal. That is unreal. If you want to take away the rushing stats, he has as many passing touchdowns as he does incompletions. Still unreal. 908 yards and 11 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions for Justin Fields this year. He took great care of the football last year. He's doing a great job of it again this year. This is a man on a mission. He took such good care of the ball last year until that playoff semifinal against Clemson where he threw the game-ending interception. He's a man on the mission. He wants redemption. So Justin Fields playing extremely well. He's leading an offense that's averaging 46.3 points per game, 511.3 total yards per game. And this Ohio State offense, much more balanced than that of Indiana. You got the 302.7 passing yards per game led by Fields, and they're also averaging 208.7 rushing yards per game. And to me, if you can find a team that's averaging over 200 rushing yards per game, that's really, really good, especially when they've got a great passing offense to complement that. That should be a top team in the country. So over 200 rushing yards per game with Master Teague and Trey Sermon, the transfer from Oklahoma. But you look at this, guys, Indiana, we'll talk on their defense in a second. Their rushing defense pretty solid too. So very similar to Indiana here. Ohio State's wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, they're going to have to step up in this one. They're going to have to make a big impact. They have done it all season long, and they are leading this Ohio State offense that's so fast and so explosive, and they're going to make you pay for it if you make mistakes, which is something that Indiana cannot afford to do. When you take a look at the defenses, guys, we'll go back to the Hoosiers here. This is an area that statistically Indiana owns the edge. The Hoosiers own the defensive edge statistically. And to me, it's the Indiana defense that's going to keep this game close. If the Hoosiers want to keep the game close against the Buckeyes, I don't think they're going to do it with their offense. They're going to do it with their defense by slowing down Justin Fields and this Buckeyes offense that, again, is averaging over 46 points per game. The Hoosiers, they're allowing just 19.3 points per game, so less than 3 touchdowns per game. They're also allowing just 320.8 total yards per game. And what's impressed me the most, if you watched our Week 12 predictions, we broke it down a little bit deeper, is those are great numbers. All right, those are solid numbers, solid passing numbers, solid rushing numbers defensively. But the defensive line and the takeaways, that's what's been most impressive to me from Indiana. The Hoosiers have 12 sacks this season. They're averaging 3 sacks per game. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, and it's impressive. What's even more impressive is the Hoosiers have 12 takeaways this season. They have forced 12 turnovers this season. They're also averaging 3 turnovers per game, 12 over 4. So you look at that, guys. This defense is ferocious. I mean, they are ball hawks. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to stuff the run. And they're going to force some interceptions. They're going to force some fumbles. They are going to force turnovers. And if that happens in a game like this where Ohio State turns the ball over deep in their own territory, I would say anywhere from their own 40 or back, 40 or behind, Indiana's going to punch it in. They're going to get at least 3 out of that. And that's not going to bode well for the Buckeyes. And Indiana could go in there and pull off this upset. This is probably the best defense that Ohio State has faced all season long. I mean, really, you got to think about it. It is. Not Rutgers, not Penn State, not Nebraska. This is the best defense they faced. And the Hoosiers are a good one, despite what some will say. Ohio State, their defense is not bad, but it's not nearly as good as it was last year. You know, we all remember how great this Ohio State defense was last year, and we knew losing Jeff Hafley over to Boston College and losing so many star players like Chase Young off to the NFL. We knew they were going to take a little bit of a step back. Through 3 games, they're allowing 23 points per game. They're allowing 224.3 passing yards per game and 131.7 rushing yards per game. So the rushing number's still not bad. I'm not expecting Stevie Scott and Michael Penix to run wild on Saturday. I still expect Indiana to struggle to run the football because, again, this is probably on up there as one of the better defenses that Indiana has faced too. And if they have been unable to run the ball against the likes of, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, guys like that, then I think they're going to be just fine. At least Ohio State is going to be just fine in stopping that run. The most impressive thing, though, here, or the key that you have to take away from this, though, is, like we mentioned with Indiana, they're probably going to have to move the ball the most through the air. The same can be said for Ohio State. So both teams are going to have to try to move the ball through the air with their quarterbacks. And the bigger thing to take away from that is while they're going to have to win the game through the air, it's going to be a matter of which offensive line can protect their quarterback the most. We talked about Indiana with the 12 sacks so far this season. Ohio State, their defense has 9 sacks this season, including 5 against Penn State. So you look at all those numbers combined, though, guys. I mean, if Justin Fields and Michael Penix are throwing the ball or dropping back more than the other guy or more than they are running the ball, the offensive line is going to have to hold up and give him time to make a play because both these defensive lines are ferocious. Both these defensive lines like to get after the quarterback, and they're coming to hunt you down. They're coming to hunt you down, and they're not looking just to get a sack. They're looking to get a strip sack and force a turnover or force a bad throw that will result in an interception or something like that. So that's something to watch out for in this game here. Let's look at the keys real quick. Keys to the game for both Indiana and Ohio State. And we kind of mentioned a few when we broke down the two sides of the ball. But again, we'll start with Indiana here. I think one of the first things we can talk about is try your best to own the time of possession. Try your best to own the time of possession. The longer you keep Ohio State off the field, the longer you keep Justin Fields and the Buckeyes off the field, the better. If you can go on some long, methodical drives and actually get points out of it, then you are going to force Justin Fields and this offense to go down there and make a play because they don't have much time to do it. And if your defense plays like it's been playing all season, you've got a very good chance to pull off this upset. Another thing Indiana needs to do is try to find some sliver of a ground game. I think you've got to mix it up with Stevie Scott and Michael Penix. I think you've got to use both of them, both of their running abilities here. And if you don't want to run as much with Stevie Scott, then get it out to him in the passing game because Ohio State is allowing over 130 rushing yards per game. It's a little bit more generous than maybe some other teams. So try to implement that run. If you can set that up and set up a play action or keep Ohio State on their toes, then you're going to have better success offensively than knowing we can't run the ball basically every play. We're going to drop back and try to throw with Penix. That's going to help Ohio State out big time. Don't get one-dimensional, Indiana. You've got to find a way to move the ball, and you've got to find a way to run the ball. Get creative. Get creative. And then finally for Indiana, it's force turnovers. If you win the turnover battle on the road here against Ohio State, I think you have a very good chance to win. And that's easier said than done. We know Ohio State takes very good care of the football. We know they take very good care of the football, especially Justin Fields. But if you can win the turnover battle, I don't care if it's 1 turnover to 0. If you win it and you convert off of it, Indiana has a great chance to win. We talked about how well Indiana's been when it comes to forcing turnovers. Again, 12 so far this season. If they can get out of here with 1 or 2 and winning that battle, they have a very good chance to win this game. No doubt in my mind. Ohio State, what are their keys? The first one is create pressure on Michael Penix. 9 sacks this year for the Buckeyes. Doesn't sound like a lot, but they're averaging 3 sacks per game, which again, sounds not like a lot, but it is. It's very impressive. So create pressure on Michael Penix because again, Indiana's not going to be able to run the ball that much. I would not expect Indiana to struggle through 4 games and then in the biggest game of the year against their toughest opponent yet for them to bust out the run game and play extremely well. Don't expect that to happen. Which means Michael Penix is the go-to guy, is the one-man show. Get after him. Get after him. It's going to be a tough environment. Sack him, pressure him, fumbles, interceptions, bad throws. Whatever it is, Ohio State has got to get after Michael Penix and try to keep him in the pocket because he hasn't done much running this year, but he has that capability. And you don't want to see a 3rd and 5, Michael Penix drop back and then take off up the gut and pick up 7. You know, it happens all the time. You need 5 yards. You need to stop them. Don't let them get 5 yards. They get 6. They get 7. They always get 1 or 2 more than they really need. And it's usually because you're not spying on the quarterback. You're not containing that quarterback because you're underestimating his dual threat ability. So get after Michael Penix and keep him in the pocket. Don't let him, search the pocket. Don't let him extend the play. Another thing for Ohio State is they've got to cut down on the penalties. And I know that sounds cliche, and I know some of you may say, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean penalties? They've only played 3 games. Well, against Rutgers, just last time they were out, like was it last week, or 2 weeks ago, they had 9 penalties for 74 yards. 9 penalties for 74 yards. Against Penn State, they had 9 penalties for 80 yards. You make mistakes like that, whatever it may be, pass interference calls, stupid false starts, illegal formations, holdings, whatever it is, if you give Indiana breaks like that, a big play is called back because of a holding call 20 yards away from the play, or a false start deep in your own territory, whatever it is, if you give Indiana breaks like that, they're going to gain confidence. They're going to gain confidence. The Hoosiers under Tom Allen, they believe they can do anything. I love Tom Allen. He's one of the most energetic and passionate coaches out there. They have no doubt in my mind, in their mind, that they can come into Columbus and win this game. They believe they can. They believe they will. If Ohio State makes mistakes that helps them out, outside of the turnovers, then that confidence is going to continue to grow. And Ohio State's going to put them in bad situations and against the best defense they've faced all year. And I think Indiana does come up with stops in those bad situations. So that's something that the Buckeyes have to be careful of. They got to clean up the penalties. They've had 2 weeks to do it. They didn't play last week against Maryland. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. They've had 2 weeks to fix these errors, these coaching errors, these mental errors. And hopefully they have the job done going into Saturday because they can't afford stuff like that if they want to win. So who is going to win this game? A lot of keys. Honestly, on paper, this is an even matchup. I know everybody thinks Ohio State's going to blow Indiana out. Buckeyes are going to murder Indiana. 20.5-point favorites. It's at home. They got Justin Fields. Indiana hasn't played anybody. It's a win. It's a shoe-in. No, it's not. It is not. This game is going to be much closer than a lot of people think. I would be shocked if Ohio State blew Indiana out of the water. Because I do think this Indiana team is for real. They have proven to us they are the best team in program history. And in the biggest game in program history, I don't think they're going to have a letdown. They're going to leave everything out there on the field because this is it. If you win, you probably win the division. And not only that, you're playoff contenders. This is a big deal. But in the end, I think Ohio State is just too much for the Hoosiers to overcome. More specifically, I think Justin Fields is too much for Indiana to overcome. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the country that doesn't make mistakes. He's extremely accurate. He's extremely smart. He's the best quarterback that Indiana has faced all year long. So we talk about all those turnovers. They're going to have a hard time coming up with them. They're going to have to find a way to do it. And I think Justin Fields makes just enough plays in this one. I think this game is close, maybe one possession going into the fourth quarter. But that is when Ohio State comes up with a big play and they pull away. Whether it's a crucial interception, crucial turnover, whether it's a big gain by Justin Fields, big play by Justin Fields, whatever it is, this game is close into the fourth quarter. Ohio State gets one big play, one big break that they need, and they hold on to that lead to escape the Hoosiers. It's going to be closer than people think. Don't buy and don't listen to all the people saying Ohio State's going to blow them out because it's not going to happen. The Hoosiers are going to put up one heck of a fight. Win or lose, you're going to show, and they are going to show, that Indiana is legit, and they do deserve to be taken seriously. But in the end, it's Ohio State that will still remain king of the East and ultimately, for me, king of the Big Ten. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. We've got one more big game of the week coming your way on Friday, so make sure you don't miss out on that. And don't miss out on everything down in that description below. We've got that exclusive content just for you, the die-hard college football fan. Whether it be our expert picks, like our spread pick on this game between Indiana and Ohio State. Whether it be our newsletter over on our website, whether it be our Patreon account, the BetNow information, all of that stuff down in the description below, and it will benefit you some way, somehow, if you love college football. So make sure to go check it out right down there, down in the description. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.